Sir Winston Churchill had plenty to say about Uganda, but summed it all up in the famous quote describing Uganda as the Pearl of Africa. It is perhaps this description that has attracted millions of tourists from across the globe to visit my motherland every year, especially during the festive season. And yet, many Ugandans like me have not had an opportunity to visit some of these breathtaking sites that make Uganda stand out. I'm sure many like me thought that visiting such national parks was so expensive, perhaps left for the tourists who can afford. But I got out of my shell this holiday and decided to take a trip to one of Uganda's beauties that offers a glimpse into the country's hidden treasures. About 400 kilometers from the capital Kampala in the southwestern part of Uganda lies Uganda's second most visited national park, the Queen Elizabeth National Park. We are welcomed by Dickson Katana, a staff of Uganda Wildlife Authority, who is the warden in charge of tourists, who raises our expectations ahead of the tour.
It has the best scenery, as we shall tour around and you see. It has the water tourism. We have water tourism on the Kazinga Channel. It has very good game drives, tracks, as you will see. It has very good primates. We have about 10 primate species.
But before we could even get started on the tour, just to allay my fears, I asked about the prices.
It's actually cheap because when you look at park fees entry, it's just 15,000 Uganda shillings. Boat cruise that you can enjoy is 30,000 Uganda shillings. Accommodation, we have it at 100,000, and for a family, an average of 256 to 300,000.
Once this is settled, we're invited to take a boat cruise along the famous Kazinga Channel that connects Lake George to Lake Edward. It's a 2-hour sail across the 40-kilometer water stretch that is an oasis of many fascinating species that inhabit the park. The sight of a school of hippos floating on the calm waters of Kazinga Channel takes my attention. I am notified that the Kazinga Channel supports the biggest number of hippos in the whole of Africa. An interesting fact is that hippos do not swim, but they often push themselves off other objects or sometimes off the ground. They spend more than 16 hours in water and can only get out in the night to feed on the palatable grass. But what is even more fascinating is right next to the hippos are crocodiles, known to be one of the biggest carnivores. But yet, these two coexist with each other.
So the fact that we do not allow fishing, so fish in the waters is not tampered with. So we have plenty of food for the crocodiles.
Also visible along the Kazinga Channel are several herds of buffaloes seen feeding on the palatable grass along the channel. These buffaloes move deep into the park to feed, but return later on to drink water along the channel. However, as we continue on the boat cruise, we notice two buffaloes that seem to be isolated from the rest of the herd.
Once the other young, strong, upcoming males realize that the dominant male is growing weak and weaker, then they keep on fighting it. Also, they are also struggling for dominance, those strong, young, upcoming males. So once they fight it, and this dominant male happens to lose the fight, then it is chased or it is rejected. Then in that situation of being rejected, then the buffalo, the dominant buffalo, decides to live in isolation. And in that solitary life, we call it a loser.
As we sail down south of the channel, what is also visible are several bird species that nest along the water stretch. This channel has over 600 different species of birds, including the martial eagles, the African spoonbills, cormorants, African skimmers, pelicans, papyrus gonalek, in addition to the occasional hard to pin down shoebill stork. I'm surprised that among the birds present in the sanctuary are the marabou storks that can't even swim or fish, I'm only told that they feed off the vomit from other birds that have overfed. Just next to the bird sanctuary is a community of fishermen who are washing their fish nets, preparing for the night catch. As we come to the end of the tour, the waters of the Kazinga Channel feed into Lake George, where fishermen are only allowed to fish. It is a moment of truth for everyone on the tour. How do you feel like being at the Kazinga Channel?
I feel so excited because Kazinga Channel is one of the places that's so refreshing, where wildlife mixes with bird species and the nature is breathtaking.
It's amazing, it's amazing, it's amazing to be here, and Ugandans are missing a lot. It's not for the white salon. You can get your money, you save your money, come with your family and have a nice weekend.
I suppose I should say it's breathtaking. I'm actually speechless, you know, just because of where I'm coming from. You don't get this opportunity to see such a place, such a beauty of nature. So it's good to actually take it in and actually appreciate it.
As we conclude day one of the visit, we are offered cheap accommodation in these standard rooms at the cost of 50,000, some 100,000, while a family house goes for 300,000 shillings per night. It is clear that even though many of us fear to visit these parks with the thought that they are very expensive, Uganda Wildlife Authority has even made it cheaper for the countrymen and women to enjoy their inheritance. Solomon Serwanja, NBS, Live at 9.